Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Quantum Leap. I'm your host, Toyin Umesiri, and today I have with me special guest joining us from Washington and also here in the studio here in Aurora with me. I'm just so excited because the information we're going to be bringing you today, if you're a small business owner ready to take your business to the next level, then this is the episode for you. So welcome again. With me joining us from Washington, D.C. is Ms. Claire Ehmann. She's the Acting Associate Administrator for the Office of International Trade of the Small Business Administration Office in Washington, D.C., where she's responsible for helping U.S. small businesses grow by reaching new customers in the global marketplace. Ms. Claire's team works closely with the SBA district offices all across the U.S. and U.S. export assistance centers and also public and private sector partners, and our office directs export loans programs and the state trade expansion program and other assistance to encourage and assist U.S. small business exports. Ms. Ehmann is a member of the Senior Executive Service with over 20 years of experience working on international issues at the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, we all know USAID, and the Department of State. She has extensive experience working on international development policy and programs, research and evaluation, and developing public-private partnership. Welcome to Aurora virtually, Claire. Such a delight to have you.
Thank you and hello.
Hello. And with me in the studio, right here in downtown Aurora, the second largest city in Illinois, I always like to say that, next to Chicago, is joining me here, Gail Roenberg, who is the Export Development Finance Manager and Regional Director here at the U.S. Small Business Administration Office of International Trade, also working closely with the network of SBA field offices and the network of export resource partners. She provides international trade and export finance expertise to small business exporters and lending communities to deliver them effective export results. Prior to joining the SBA, Gail was Senior Regional Manager for Export Development Canada, EDC, and Senior Trade Sales Manager at HSBC Bank's Global Trade and Receivables Finance Group. And you held similar roles at RBS Group, PNC, and JP Morgan Chase. Wow, guys, such incredible experience today, and I know you're coming to share a lot with us. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to go down to sharing more with us. Like, I've read your bio, but I know there's so much there in terms of your day-to-day activities. So Ms. Claire, can you share with us the overall role of the SBA and in particular, what your department oversees across US? Thank you.
Thank you and thank you so much for having us here. It's great to be virtually in Aurora. Yes, so the SBA's Office of International Trade, right? We focus on trying to get small businesses. We want to support you and we want to help you grow via exporting. So our office offers counseling and training. We offer grants to support exporting, and we also have a suite of export finance products if you need capital to export. We also have, we are really the voice in the U.S. government for small businesses when the U.S. government is negotiating trade agreements with other countries, because we want small businesses to be able to trade overseas. So that's really the ethos of our office. We see exporting as a wonderful opportunity for businesses either to begin to be global or to grow your business globally via exporting. So that's really what we do. And I'm really excited to have this conversation with you and Gail to tell you more about how the SBA can help you on your exporting journey.
Thank you so much. I just have to ask you, at what point do you think small businesses should be exploring going international? What's really the decision factor there that you've seen?
I think that's really a great question. And what we have certainly seen is as more and more businesses are actually doing e-commerce, right? Or if you have services that you could potentially really you can sell to any client. So some businesses are really starting globally. I think it really depends on sort of the good or the service that your business is providing. Some businesses, though, really could start out global with e-commerce or selling your services overseas. So you might start global. And then other businesses, it really might be about, you've developed your product in the United States, maybe you're in multiple states, but you're really looking for another market to make your business more resilient. And so really that's the time when you're thinking about growing, and you should really be thinking about the international market of exporting, right? Exporting is a $3 trillion business last year. So it's really a huge opportunity market. And so I wouldn't say there's necessarily one time when you want to think about exporting. Could be at the beginning, and it could be while you're a little bit along in your export journey. And we really want at the SBA, we want to support you no matter where you are in that process.
Wow, thank you so much. I'm going to turn to you, Gail, in terms of your office here within the region. What do you oversee and what have you seen? And then we'll go back to national as well.
Sure. Typically what we see here, in my experience in this particular region, Illinois in general, is, first of all, we see a lot of companies that, are selling to larger global corporates, right? Okay. That don't realize that their product ends up overseas. So that's kind of the first step that we see, selling to the Boeings, the Caterpillars, the John Deeres, right? Not realizing that that product ultimately ends up, overseas. Then what we tend to see quite a lot is what we call the accidental exporter. It comes along, it's kind of a surprise. They muddle through the first one and find out that, yeah, there's a great premium out there for, U.S. products, stuff that comes from here. So they're finding out that they have an increased profit margin from exporting, which is very typical of exporters. And so that's how they kind of accidentally fall into the export world, and then start investing serious time and effort and dollars into that education. So it's the first one, whoops, and they kind of muddle through, and then they start focusing more heavily, right? But I agree with Claire. There is no one time that you think about exporting, and Claire's right. The e-commerce and the services is becoming so much of our economy here in Illinois, here in Aurora, that it's easy. It's easier to export. There's not the logistics and the customs of moving physical product cross-border. So it's just kind of an easier way to get into exporting.
Wow, that's so good, which is bringing me to this thought of how do they gain exposure to the international world? Website allows businesses to be more visible to anyone anywhere in the world, right? So online online definitely is a vehicle for reaching the rest of the world.
Absolutely.
Have you seen needs for language translation services?
Absolutely. We work with resource partners here, such as the small business development centers. We work with the state of Illinois, who offers grants to do just that. Wow. We've seen, websites translated into 3 or 4 languages, depending on where you are, which is quite commonplace in the retail market. If you're selling retail, you'll always see, when you click on your iPhone, you'll always see, choose your language. Sometimes you have to deal with the British English, but it's been translated 3 or 4 or 5 times already. So we're seeing a bigger and bigger interest in translating that.
So language is not a barrier. We can always update our websites to reach people that do not speak native. That's great. I'm sure the business community will be encouraged not to make that a barrier, to say, oh, I can't sell to other parts of the world because they don't speak English. So thank you so much for sharing that. Awesome. So, what's your pulse on the current state of small businesses? And I know you've shared that there's been deep research in this space. Ms. Claire, do you want to give us more insights to what you're seeing across the US and the current state of small businesses? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Right, just thinking about definitely at the start of this administration, the associate administrator came in and sort of wanted to know, oh, how many small businesses are exporting? And of course, we do have official statistics. There is a little bit of a data lag. So the latest statistics that we have are from 2020. And the Department of Commerce, sort of gets all that data from goods that are being exported. And so there are about 264,000 small businesses in the United States that are exporting goods. So that's really about 1% of US small businesses. That's a big number. It's a good number. But again, we know $3 trillion, right, in kind of like the export market. So we did some more research that isn't only based on goods trading data, because we also know a lot more businesses are going online with e-commerce. A lot more people are selling services now. There's a lot of sectors now, like healthcare, where you can actually do medical training, not only in the United States, but you can do it in other countries, right? And so we did some research. We also knew that the Department of Commerce number doesn't really track very small transactions, so under $2,500. That could be a lot of small businesses. We delved into that research and looked at some surveys that were actually done both by Visa and Google. And if you look at those surveys, we actually saw that there are about 1.3 million small businesses that are currently exporting. Now, again, they may not be 100% exporters, but they may have a good or a service that they're both selling in the United States, and they're also doing some of that selling overseas, some of that accidental exporting that Gail was talking about. So 1.3 million small businesses currently exporting. And then we even went further and we looked at what are the sectors that could potentially be exported, right? So like I talked about, healthcare training, a lot of education, a lot of these things can now actually, you can do it in America, you can also do it in other countries. And so we wanted to look at all the sectors, whether you have a good or service that could be exported. And if you look at all of that, there's actually 2.6 small businesses in those sectors who could potentially be exporting. So that's really actually the audience that Gail and I are trying to reach, is all of those exporters working in those sectors where you have something that could potentially be sold overseas, because that, again, there's a lot of resources available to small businesses to help them, help support them exporting. So that's really our focus in OIT. Definitely, when I go around the country and I ask businesses how it's going with exporting, they definitely do cite, issues with the workforce. It's hard to find labor now, finding the right people. They talk about access to information. So they might not know where to start with exporting. And then it's really great, right? We can tell them about our trade tools website on SBA, which is a great place to get started. It tells you all about exporting and has lots of links to other federal resources. And then they also talk about getting access to credit. One common issue we see right across the sector is that, small businesses, some of them, they tend to stay small, right? But we know that you really need capital to grow, and they can't always get the financing they need. And so that is something that Gail and her team work on, is trying to, work together with lenders to promote our export finance products. So there's really, I think it's actually a very interesting time to be an exporter. And as I said, as trade is going more and more online, I think we're only going to see more and more of it. And we want to get the word out about all of the resources that are available to exporters from the U.S. government.
Wow, thank you so much. It looks like there's a lot going on, and I actually am excited in terms of the research and being able to express where in particular growth opportunities, growth areas, just to encourage people to lean in, and knowing that there are more customers outside of the US that we can be leaning in to sell to, and also hearing that the government actively supports businesses that want to do this. Here's one of the things I tell my clients: don't do this alone. Don't try to do this alone. There are lots of resources and support you can definitely leverage. So here's Ms. Gail with us, here in Aurora, here in Illinois. What can you do for us? We want everything.
It seems to be, for some reason, a well-kept secret. The you know, the free resources that are available for exporters, small businesses, even non-exporting companies, right? There is a vast amount of resources that you can use. Offices, people with very, very long history, and it doesn't matter if you're, you know, in Chicago, or if you're in Illinois, Aurora, or if you're in Peoria. Right down the road, there's the Small Business Development Center. There's also within that same office is a women's business development center. So, you know, if you're a woman, go get help, right? They don't charge. They will help you do. They will help you get started down your road. With two things, they will help you start down your export path by helping you plan, putting together that export business plan. Also getting, you know, to a state of financial readiness.
Yes.
Right, which is so important, as Claire mentioned. You know, small businesses' one of the small businesses' biggest challenge is the access to capital to keep growing. Right, most small business owners, at least in my experience, you know, they want to sell their product. That's their gig, right, and rightly so. But they never think about the financial side and how can they grow that particular product, right? They're so focused on the product, they're not focused on how to help the company overall grow.
Wow.
So, you know, we have chambers of commerce here in Aurora. We have the Small Business Development Center in Aurora. We have, you know, the state of Illinois here in Aurora. All of those are available resources for exporters to access. It's not a one-shot deal. It is an actual program they will take you through, all free, right? All the government resources. But I encourage small business owners and their employees to take advantage of those resources.
I agree.
Right? Don't do it. Don't, as Claire said, don't do it alone.
Don't
or
do
you
it
said
alone.
it alone. Don't do it alone.
Yeah.
There's way too many people out there that are experts in their field that can help you.
Yes, and you said something around the small business wants to sell. And one of the things I say is sales is the last thing that happens. It's the transaction. And part of what we want to do is what's the checklist to getting the sale? And what you're sharing with us is the very important thing about finance readiness. Are you able to dive a little bit, because you have a very strong background, what one thing should they do? Is it keeping records, or how do they go to their bank, or like what's the one thing around finance readiness that you would say you need to do this?
Yeah, I'm not sure that there's just one thing, but
okay.
You know, one of the things that I do advise small business owners is, you know, as they are approaching banks for their first financing, if you want to be, you know, as I laugh, if you want to be shown the door, walk in and say, I need a loan, get a response of, well, how much do you need? And then say, well, how much will you give me? Right? That is the true finance kiss of death, right? That tells a bank that you don't know your business. You don't know what your cost is. You don't know what your projections are for the coming year, right? So walking into a bank and saying things like, well, how much will you give me, right? Don't do that.
Okay.
Right? So that's
No.
You know, spend some time planning and projecting, right? Most small business owners can do projections and they run their financials. It can be on QuickBooks. It can be, you know, almost anything. But you spend the time on your domestic business.
Yes.
Spend the same amount of time on the export business.
Wow.
Right? So
wow. I like what you're sharing, because you said you spend time on your domestic business, spend time on your international business as well, because I think many people may make the wrong assumption that international is fast, quick,
Or it's just like domestic.
or it's just like domestic.
Yeah.
Right? So I think going to the resources, the SBDCs, the WBDCs, the ITCs, that's a place where all of these assumptions can be grounded in facts to say, don't make this mistake. Many people have made this mistake before, but we can share with you best practices. Are there websites that they can go to, or just type in SBDC in the city?
I believe that on the SBA internet, SBA.gov/international, we do have those available export resources available. Of course, I'm always willing. I'm always willing to help. Me and my team are willing to call us. We'll get you to the right place.
Awesome.
We work with other agencies such as US Exim Bank. We play well in the same sandbox, right? We've known each other for years. In fact, I just had somebody ask me, well, how do I know when to send it to SBA or send it to Exim? And it's like, don't worry about it.
Just send it to anyone.
Just either one of us, right?
Wow.
We'll get it to the right place, right?
That.
We all know what's going on and the eligibility in the program. Just
talk to us.
Just send it. You don't need to be an expert. So.
Oh, thank you so much. I love that. And really, I feel this sense of ownership when I connect with anybody across board from any of the agencies. That's one of my own experiences. Everybody wants to help. Everybody is ready to connect you, because we're all about the success, right? So I want small businesses to know the government wants you to succeed because that's how the economy drives and thrives as well. And I can't say this enough in terms of my own experience on receiving that. What do you need? Who do you need to connect with? We're ready to support. And so I really do appreciate that. And I want everybody to take advantage of that.
Absolutely.
So I'm sure people will be knocking on your doors. So thank you. So Ms. Claire, what are best practices overall that you would like to share with us, and what do we ought to be looking out for as we prepare to go international?
Yes, I know. So right. So as Gail said, we really want to make sure small businesses that are trading are doing it intentionally, and you're taking advantage of all the resources out there so that you can avoid mistakes. The first one we've already talked about, right? Get counseling from a small business development center, a women's business center, a veterans business opportunity center. Any of these places offer no cost counseling to help you get on your way. It's really a good practice to do an initial export readiness assessment. So the Department of Commerce has one online. But the SBDC or the Women's Business Center may also have one to kind of walk you through. So you want to, again, the export readiness assessment is going to walk you through, sort of is your business really ready for exporting? Then you can work on, as Gail said, developing an export plan. So again, we have tools about sort of what kinds of questions you need to ask yourself in your export plan, but you're really trying to figure out, right? What are your markets? How much is it going to cost me, right, to all told, right, to export this product? So what should I price in this different market? And then other kind of marketing strategies, and et cetera. So the export plan really walks you through really thinking through so you can do this intentionally. Then when you are thinking about choosing your markets, again, I want to tell everybody about the Trade Tools website, because we have links to all of these different things that I'm referencing. Again, that is over at sba.gov/international. But the Commerce Department has a market diversification tool and a global market finder that you can use to try to do your initial sort of finding your markets. They also have country commercial guides, right? They'll also point out, where does the United States have a free trade agreement? Free trade agreements mean that you don't pay tariffs on your goods, and so they're a lot better for a small business. That might be a good market for you. And then the USDA also has gain reports, sort of if you have more agricultural products. So there's a lot of government information about those markets that you can use to be making that decision about where to go. Then the Department of Commerce also, if you sort of are honing into a market, they do offer something called Gold Key Service, which you do have to pay for, but then they will actually do matchmaking for you, trying to find you buyers in that country. It's a really wonderful service. And you do have to pay for that service, but the one thing I did want to mention, Gail touched on it. One of the things that our office, the Office of International Trade, offers is called the State Trade Expansion Program. That is a grant that is given out by the states, and small businesses can actually get reimbursed for export-related expenses. So in Illinois, it is called the I-STEP program. It's run by the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. There's a link both on the SBA website, and then of course, sort of if you just Google I-STEP or Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, it is there. And so small businesses can apply to that I-STEP program, and you can get reimbursed, for example, if you go to an international trade show, if you need to translate your website like we were talking about, if you need to buy export credit insurance, to help you with your financing. These are all eligible expenses that are under the STEP program that you can actually get reimbursed for. Again, this is one of these wonderful resources to take some of that startup cost out of exporting to really get you on your way. So I think those are some of the things that I'd say. It's really, these are great resources that's excellent for small businesses to know about.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much. Now, I'm not going to let you go until you answer some very special questions. For me, you both are very successful, extremely successful in your profession. I would like you to share with my audience one or top two secrets of a success. What do you do differently, and what do you do really, really well that you believe has helped you to continue to climb up the ladder of success and be able to serve more people in different capacity? So I'll start with you, Miss Claire, and this really means a lot to me because I believe that upward mobility is something that we can achieve if we discipline ourselves and if we can get such insights from great people like you.
Oh, thank you. This is a great question. I know. So I think, as I've progressed in my career, I really have to say, it's really the importance of networking. So networking, I really think it is the secret sauce in, just again, building a network sort of in your own field, but then also I really encourage building networks just in areas that you're interested in. It doesn't have to be sort of specifically career related, because it is really interesting how sometimes your networks can also just intersect with each other. You sort of never know where your next job is going to come from. You never know where your new business is going to come from. And so for me, it really has been building out networks and sometimes being intentional about it. So I'm actually quite an introverted person. And so, sometimes I don't always feel like having that coffee. But after I do it, I come out really energized from the conversation. And I even set myself networking goals about, sort of setting up meetings with different people. Again, just trying to grow my network. I think I can translate this also into exporting, because I've certainly talked to small businesses, and really the way to be successful is to talk to other businesses that have successfully exported, right? You meet people who've run into the same issues, right? You also meet people who can help you. I know that Illinois has district export councils. I think those are a great place for people to go and look. Again, to build out your exporting network if you're interested in dipping your toe in the water for that. So I think, yeah, the importance of networking is my little bit of advice.
Okay, I love that. I want you to dive a little bit deeper, because everybody talks about like networking at a high level, but how do you connect with people? Because I feel like being authentic, right, being genuine, being real, I just connect with you, even though we've known each other, with this experience. So I think there's a secret sauce to you as a person. That's what I feel. So not just networking, but I think vulnerability, authenticity, and adding value and contributing value, because that's what I've experienced. And I want to thank you again for saying yes, which is the power of networking. You saying yes, you did not have to, but your ability to say yes, your willingness to show up. So I really want to say I appreciate that and saying thank you so very much. And I know our audience also says thank you because you've shared with us something we may not have heard before. So thank you for networking with us on this show as well. And so I'm also going to ask Ms. Gill, what's your secret sauce for success?
I don't know. I feel like the sauce is almost the same, but
Almost the
you
same.
know, it is the importance of networking. But I will also add on that, you know, and I come from, you know, very large environments, especially in the bank world. One of my biggest strengths, I thought, was to build my own internal network, right? So knowing who to go to for, you know, relying on that person, getting to know that person, you know, say in possibly Office of General Counsel at SBA, right? SBA is a huge agency, huge, right? So it is almost like navigating, you know, you mentioned Walmart. It's like it's navigating a company like that. So the importance, if you're in an environment, the importance of getting your own internal network where you can help each other through situations. The other thing I will say is where I've always been more comfortable and successful is I don't feel like the typical, how do I put this, the typical professional, right? And I don't really hold back much, as Claire can attest to, but you know, but it's more about the transparency, the honesty, who I am, right? And the last piece of, you know, perspective or advice is have a sense of humor. If you lose your sense of humor, you're done, right? You got to have, you know, you got to have fun in what you do, right? And I've always had, you know, if I'm not having fun at what I do, I mean, we all have our moments, correct?
Yes.
But, you know, if we're not having fun at what we do, we shouldn't be doing it. Life is too short for to not have fun in your career because you spend the most time at your career.
Wow. I love that because you expressed networking through the lens of, you said, internal network. So being more effective on your job, being more effective at delivering results to your customers is also tied to the partnerships you can establish within your own structure. I think that's powerful. So not just networking outside of, you know, with other organizations, but for us to be effective on our job, who else can I bring into my network that together we can work together to deliver results on behalf of our customers?
Absolutely.
I love that. I love that. Any last words, Ms. Claire, for our audience here in Aurora and beyond that will be watching this session?
Oh, I just really want to encourage, again, as we've said, you're really not alone. If you're thinking about exporting, there's a lot of resources available, so don't be shy. Reach out to Gail or all the other resources that you have in the state. Again, I just want to be encouraging. You know, it can feel scary, but I just want to encourage you to take that leap and think about exporting. It's really a wonderful way to grow your business, and it makes your business more resilient.
Oh, thank you so much. Ms. Gill?
Yeah, absolutely. You're not alone.
You're not alone.
Leverage the resources that you have available to you. I'm here, my team's here. We are all here to help you succeed as a small business and a small business exporter. We are not judged by any kind of volume that we push through or do. We truly want to help you all succeed in the international marketplace.
Wow.
So.
Wow, thank you so much. And everyone, you've heard this. You're not alone. There's help around the corner, literally. Do reach out. I'm going to be listing out more direct links to share what the references we've made today. We'll try and put together a list of reference links that you can immediately go out to. I'll try to put contacts out there as well, so that we can start reaching out and doing the work. So thank you so much for joining me on Quantum Leap. I'm sure the resources and information you've heard today, if you take the active step towards leveraging and making the right call, you can definitely take your business to the next dimensions. Thank you everyone for joining us today, and I look forward to seeing you next week. God bless you. Bye.